Film Go family, we back with another one. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell on the side so you can stay up to date with all the content that I drop. I'm gonna take you through 3 must-know techniques, right, that'll change the way that you edit completely. So the first things first is keyframing. Second thing is masking. And the third is compound clipping, all right? Let me go ahead and give you an example of that. So that's me watching me while I'm watching me while you watching me watch me. That's correct. Oh, snap. Alright, so now I'm finna show you how to create that hologram using the 3 different techniques that I discussed. And I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible so the tutorial is not too long. Alright, so first things first, you wanna grab the clip that you want to use as your base clip. Alright, and then you wanna grab your other clip that you wanna use to create our actual hologram. The clip I decided to use, I did a screen record on my phone, and if you're looking at this clip right now, this is actually the Red Command app for my Red Komodo. I was filming the initial video. Even this video, we're filming on the Red Komodo right now. We'll do a video on that later. All right, so now when you got both your clips, you want to go back to your main clip. All right, and you want to set some markers at some key points. If you go ahead and set these markers, it'll be easy for you to locate the main stops that you need in order to create the movements. All right, so the first point that I'm going to add is where, let me play the clip, where I actually grab it from the phone right before my hand flings it up. You see that spot right there? And if you go left and right on your arrow keys on the keyboard, you can move frame by frame. All right, so I like that spot right there. And I'm going to press M, and that dropped that first marker. Now let's go to the next marker. Where I want to leave a marker is where my hand actually lands when the hologram is actually thrown up out of the phone. And let's go ahead and drop another marker right there. So now I'm gonna zoom in. So now I got 2 markers going, first 2 markers. Now I need to set 2 more points. Go ahead and play the clip. Stop it. So I want to take the point from where find the point where I'm actually taking the hologram out of the sky and throwing it on the computer monitor. So I like this point right before my hand has the most movement. We're going to take that point right there, and I'm going to hit M, drop another marker, and then I'm going to go frame by frame over until I feel like it should land on the actual monitor itself. I like that spot right there. Boom. All right, so now I got 4 markers set up. So now when the editing process should be a little bit easier because I set these anchor points up where I want a lot of the action to happen already. All right, so grab that other clip that you want to create the hologram. You can use any clip that you want to create a hologram with. It doesn't have to be a screen recording from your phone. It could be another clip that you used recorded off your camera. Whatever you want to do, man. Any clip that you want to use is totally fine. All right, so now I want to line the clip up on that first marker that I set, right? And I'm going to trim some of this fat. I'm not going to trim all of it because I'm going to still use some of it, but I'm going to trim some of it back. All right. Just to clear up some real estate for myself. And now, next step. Once I got it set on that first marker, right, I actually want to start shaping this clip into a position where it looks like it's on the actual screen as a hologram. So what I want to do is I want to go to the point where after I grabbed it out of the phone and it landed in the sky, that's the marker I want to go to. So that's the second marker. All right, so now I have my cursor position there. So what I want to do now is actually position this clip into a spot that I think it should land at, and that I think it will look like a hologram. So I want to scale it down, the overall scale, and then I want to reposition it into a spot where it appears to have landed. All right. And I'm going to adjust the x-axis too and just kind of shrink it a little bit, the width, because I want this to kind of look like it's on an angle. And in order to, when you have something that look like it's on the angle, the perspective of it can change the width wise. So just adjust it to you think it's right and it looks right. So the next thing I want to do is actually distort the corners of it. And that's going to help me to give me that perspective look. Let me hide this crop. All right, so if you come down here to the distort, you can distort each corner and you just adjust them until you get it to look how you want it to look, to where it appears to be at an angle, and switching the perspective. All right, I'm gonna speed this one up just so for the sake of the time and making sure we get through this tutorial quickly as possible. I'll go through a more detailed explanation of how to actually do these in another tutorial. Okay, once you got that in the general spot that you want it, go ahead and lock in your keyframes. So we're gonna start locking in keyframes. If you can look far to the right, and it's different in a different spot for each editing software, but you could do this in any editing software. Just figure out where you can add keyframes for your particular software. But in Final Cut Pro, there's some diamonds on the right side of most parameters with a little cross in between it, or a little plus sign, whatever you want to call it. Once you get your position of your clip at that second marker, go ahead and start clicking those little plus signs and start locking in your position. All right, I go ahead and lock all the keyframes. Just because when you make adjustments, when you lock in the keyframes, the software will automatically lock in the next keyframe if you make an adjustment on another frame. So I go ahead and lock it in, all of them, because I don't know which parameters I might need to adjust as I continue on with the edit. So now once I got those keyframes locked in, I want to go back to my first marker. All right. So the second marker is where it landed. So now I need to figure out how to make it look like it's coming from the phone. And the way we do that is, that's where the keyframes come into play. Go back to that first marker where my hand look like it's grabbing it out of the phone. And I just simply want to reposition the clip right over my hand, close to the fingertips. And then I want to scale it down to shrink it as if I grabbed it, as if I'm grabbing it out of the phone and throwing it up on in the air right there. And as you can see, when I did that, these keyframes, like I said before, they automatically lock in. All right, and you see this arrow right here? That's how, if you press that arrow, it'll take you to the next keyframe that you locked in. So that's an easy way to get back and forth between your markers and your keyframes. So I'm gonna go ahead and click it. Boom, that's where it landed. Now let's click the arrow back. That's where it began. So now let's play it from the beginning and see how that looks. Boom, looks great. All right, so now we want to go to the third marker that we set. All right, and this is where I actually grab the video from out of the sky, the air, and throw it onto the monitor. So once we get to that third marker that we set earlier, we're gonna go ahead and lock these keyframes in as well. All right, and then we want to go, once we have all that locked in, we want to go to our final marker that we set up earlier when we want the actual clip to end up on the monitor. All right, and then we'll reposition that until it looks like it's sitting right in the monitor by adjusting our position, our scale, and our distort tab each corner to make it look like it fits. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed up through this process till we done. All right, so once you got it kind of close to where you want it, position wise, like I said before, once you start the keyframing process and you make adjustments on the different parameters, they automatically lock in once you make the adjustment. So in this case, I don't have to come back and lock them in. It did it for me automatically. So now let's play that clip from that point to the computer monitor to see how it looks. All right, that looks pretty good. So now let's play it from the beginning and see the whole thing happen. All right, dope. All right, so next thing I want to do, I actually want to make this look like a hologram. So if you're thinking about a hologram, they kind of see-through, right? So I'm going to actually take this clip and I'm going to drop the opacity down to about, let's say 50%. All right, once we drop that down to about 50%, now it looks more like a hologram, right? And then when it hit the computer screen, though, I wanted to go back to 100%. So I come to that third marker that I set up from right before I threw it on the actual computer screen. All right, and then I will lock the opacity in, the keyframe on the opacity right there at the 50% area on the third marker. Then I'll go to the fourth marker, all right, and raise that opacity back to 100%. So now it looks like it's on the actual monitor itself. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now the next thing I'm gonna do, actually let me trim off some of this fat too on this clip so I can have a little bit more real estate to work with. All right. So now my next step is actually making the beam from the phone as if it was projecting onto from the phone into the air right here. All right, and it's actually really simple. I'm not going to use any special plugins. Everything that I use comes stock in Final Cut Pro, and if you're using a different editing software, it will probably come stock in that as well. So you don't have to go spend any money on any plugins to create this. All right, so right now we just want to create a light beam. So what I'm going to do is actually come to my text and title bar, come to my generators, and then come to my solids, right? When you grab a solid, grab the custom solid, drop it right on top of all your clips. All right, let's go ahead and change the color of it to whatever color you want the beam to be. It don't matter. It could be orange, purple, blue, red, whatever you feeling in that moment or whatever works best for the scene, use that. I'm going to go ahead and use a blue, so let's change this to white so I can see the RGB. I'm going to use like a blue tone, bluish tone for my beam. All right, once you get the color that you want, let's come to this tab here, all right, and let's drop down the opacity. We'll drop it down to about 35%. All right, so now we got the beginnings of a beam. Now we're going to start using our mask. There's several different mask types that you can use. My personal favorite is the graduated mask, and I'm gonna show you how to use the graduated mask in this one and use the shape mask in another clip that I'm gonna use. All right, so but before we actually start adding masks, what I'm gonna do is actually duplicate this clip, and you can do that by holding Option, clicking it, and dragging it up. All right, now I duplicated this clip, and I'm gonna tell you, you'll know why I duplicated it in a minute. But for now, let's go ahead and disable the clip. So I'm only looking at one of the blue clips, and you disable it on Mac by hitting V. All right, so now it disabled that clip. So now I can just focus on this first clip that I created. Now I want to create like a V kind of shape from my phone, and where it gradually gets wider as I get to the actual projection side. To make it look like it's beaming from the phone. And I'm actually going to use my graduated mask. All right, so let's grab a graduated mask, drop it right on top of the clip. And the reason I like this one is because the way that it feathers is very smooth. It feathers better than any other mask in Final Cut Pro. All right, so now when you have the mask on the clip, you see if you move this top one, right, this is the center one. This is where your mask actually starts. All right, and if you grab this bottom one, this is the target, or where the mask actually ends, or where it feathers to. All right, so now what I want to do is take the actual center, and if you notice, the further I drag it away from that, the more it feathers out. The closer I bring it to it, the more solid and straight the line becomes, all right? So we're gonna get it pretty close for now. And I'm gonna take the center, the whole mask, I'm gonna drop it right over here near my phone, all right? Then I'm gonna take this target and I'm gonna position it until I get to the kind of the shape that I want it to be. All right, and as you can see, I got kind of a line going from the phone to almost the edge of where I got the hologram at. And then I'm gonna feather it out until I think it looks pretty good. All right, and I like that. All right, and I'm gonna grab another graduated mask, drop it on there again. I'm gonna do the exact same thing to the opposite side until I could get the angle that I desire for my mask. And that looks pretty good, all right? So if I come to the effects up here and toggle it on and off, you can see what happened when I created the graduated mask. All right, so now I need to use another graduated mask because this beam needs to fade into the hologram and not past the hologram like that. So let's grab one more graduated mask, drop it on there. Let's put the center of it, let me bring that closer. Let's put the center of it right on the phone and flip that target around towards the hologram and drag it up until you want it to look, till it looks like it's just touching the mask or just touching the hologram. All right, so now it kind of looks like it's projecting from the phone itself. All right, so now you remember that clip earlier that I duplicated. Let's go ahead and enable that by clicking it and hitting V again. Now it's back on. Now what you want to do is you want to take a shape mask, drop the shape mask right on top of that one. All right, as you can see, it starts off kind of like in a square position. I'm gonna make it a little bit more curved, and you can adjust this however you think is necessary for your particular clip. We're gonna go a little bit more curved, all right? And then now I'm gonna actually shrink the entire mask down. I'm gonna make the mask really small actually. And what I'm actually doing right now with this is I want to create somewhat of a glow around the actual hologram itself to make it look like it's growing. This just kind of helps add to the overall effect that this is what's going on in the actual scene, that it's a real projection in the scene. All right, so now let's just grab this. We could reposition it. Let me kind of widen it back up a little bit so I just grab the center. All right, and just kind of position it right over the middle of your hologram. All right, and then I'm gonna make this really small. The reason being, I don't really want it to be very intrusive into the scene. If you grab this outer ring here, this outer red ring, all right, and you pull that out, it'll feather it out. All right, so now from the center to the edge of it, it gets gradually less light. And that's what you kind of want with a glow. All right, so now once you feathered it out like that, it's actually overpowering, too overpowering for me. So I'm actually going to drop the opacity down on it a lot more. All right, because I just want it to be real subtle. I don't want it to be overpowering at all. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm liking what I see. All right, so that's pretty much the projection side of it. Now what I want to do is actually take my main hologram clip, come to the color tab up here. I'm gonna just add a little bit more exposure to it just to kind of brighten it up a little more, make it look like it's glowing a little bit better. And then I'm gonna pull some shadows down to kind of create a little bit more separation. All right. So now what I want to do, I want to make this glow effect and the projection effect to move with my actual hologram to make it look more official. All right, so remember the markers that we set up. Let's go to the second marker, and that's where you actually made it land at, right? So now let's go ahead and add a keyframe. I'm gonna go ahead and click the top clip. And that clip is the glow around the actual hologram, not the projection piece, but the glow around the hologram. And I'm gonna go to my opacity and I'm gonna add a keyframe. Now let's move back to the first one. the first marker set up, and I'm gonna drag my opacity to 0. All right, so basically now what's gonna happen when the clip come up, the glow will gradually come open with the clip. All right, so let's review that. Boom. Hold on, let's go back. Okay, I like that. Now I need to make my projection, the actual projection piece here, actually grow with the clip as it rides up. Now I can do this a couple different ways. I can use keyframes on this from the positioning and scale to make it happen. But I actually like to do it with my graduated mask in this particular case, just because it looks a lot more smooth. So again, go back to that second marker where it landed at, and come to the graduated mask, that last graduated mask that you added, right? And let's go to the actual target and center and add keyframes on those as well. You can use keyframes in different effects and everything, so keyframes are great. All right, so now let's go back to the first marker. Boom. And now where the target is, we can start to drag that down back towards the actual phone. All right, so now what's gonna happen when I play this, that target gonna just grow with the actual hologram, and it's gonna look like it's being projected from the phone. Looks great, don't it? All right, so now take that same concept, and we're gonna do it at the end, and make it actually fade away this time, since we're throwing it on the actual computer monitor itself. All right, so I'm gonna actually speed through this process for the sake of time. All right, and I'll see you when it's done. All right, just wrapped it up, and I trimmed the fat off a little bit at the end again, just so I can clear up some space for real estate, just so it's not taking up too much space. All right, let's look at that entire thing from start to finish. Oh, that looks pretty good. All right, so now let me stretch this back out a little bit. Next step is I'm still using my mask. You see how, let me click this actual clip that's on the monitor. Let me disable it real quick. Now you see right here the film go image on this monitor. You could tell that it's kind of blurred because it's not really in focus. So I want to do the same thing to this clip, all right, to make it look more natural, like it's fitting in the screen. And also you see how the light is spilling on the corners here. So the way we can mimic that with this clip is actually using the exact same image, but we mask this in a way with the graduated mask to where it looks natural. All right, so now go ahead and blade the clip on that last marker, because we don't have to do that for the rest of that clip, but we just only want it to happen once it hit the actual monitor itself. All right, so we only want to put effects after that last marker that you set. So now what we want to do, go ahead and take your another graduated mask, drop it right on top of that clip. All right, and just adjust it right to that corner. All right, put the center of it where you want it, and I don't want to really see that film go behind it, so I don't want to have it way back here. I'm gonna put it about here, and adjust the mask until it's nice and feathered how you want it. All right, and then you do the same thing for the opposite corner, or however you need to do it. Just make it look natural. Use your mask to your advantage, and we're gonna go ahead and drop that down that way. Change the center of that. Now it's starting to look a little bit more authentic, all right, and into the scene, right? So let's disable that and enable it back. All right, we almost there. All right, so my next thing that I want to do is actually try to match it a little bit better too. You see how this is a lot more contrasty than that image is. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to my colors tab, right? And I'm gonna take some of the contrast out of the image just to make it match a little bit better. So now let's toggle that on and off. Now we're getting really close. Now the next step is I just want to go ahead and drop a little blur effect over it so it can look like it's actually the focus is right in comparison to what you see on the actual video. So come to your blur, grab the focus, drop it right on that clip, all right? And what happens when you do that, if you come click the point, you see this little circle here? This is where the focus point is. This is actually what's in focus. So I know that the perspective of this video, what's in focus is actually closer to this corner over here as compared to what's not in focus. So I'm gonna drag the focus over here, and it'll gradually get more and more less focused the further away you from that circle. Now that's too out of focus, so once you get the position where you want it, go ahead and change the amount of it to really match the scene. And that looks pretty close to me. Yep. And there it is. Now let's look at that from top to finish again. Yeah, that's looking really good. All right, so now we're moving the compound clips. All right, so now you see how I'm moving the phone right here? But the image, the hologram is not moving with it. So if I want to make it even feel more real, I want to make all of this move with my phone. And instead of me having to go to each individual clip and set up keyframes to try to match the movement, I can actually take each one of these clips, select all of them, right click, and hit new compound clip. Create a compound clip. All right, and we're going to title this Hologram. All right, we're going to save that. So now I can just add keyframes to this one clip and everything will move together as one individual unit. So that's why, this is one reason why it's very beneficial to learn how to actually do compound clipping. So I'm going to go through real quick and just set keyframes to help match up the movement of my hand. Let's look at it before I do it. All right, and I'm gonna show you after once I finish the keyframing. So I'm gonna speed this process up as well. In just a second, let's zoom in so we can get a better view of the phone. Let's set up our first keyframe with the position. All right, and then we're gonna just go over probably about every 5 to 10 frames, maybe about 5 frames, and just try to mimic the movement of the phone. All right, I'm gonna speed this go ahead and start speeding this process up. All right, so now I got all my keyframes set up. Now let's play that compound clip back. Dope. Now it look like it's moving with the actual phone, which gives it a more authentic feel. All right, so one more thing I'm gonna do. You see this little solid line, all right, where that compound clip kind of cutting off the actual glow effect. It's an easy way to fix that. Just go back to your masks, all right, and drop another graduated mask on top of the actual compound clip. All right, move the center of it somewhat close to the actual hologram itself. Swing that target around and just feather it right to where that line starts to be visible at. All right, and you can, adjust this to it becomes how you want it to look. All right, and I think we just about done. Let me go ahead and play that back for you from the top. And there it is. I just showed you how to create the hologram effect using keyframing, masking, and compound clipping. If you learn these 3 techniques, I promise you it'll take your editing to another level. Make sure you leave a comment below about the next tutorial that you would like to see. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and always love God, love people, and stay creative. I'm the Film Goat. I'm out.